Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Routing Box Friday Live. I am Jonathan Anthon, here to talk to you today. Hopefully some helpful tips and tricks that'll help you with your NEMT business. Today we're actually going to kind of talk about business in general. Then we'll tie this back to NEMT at the end. I promise we'll cover some cool stuff. But so just from in general standpoint, we're going to talk about how technology can help you create better business practices from a general standpoint. So no matter what you do in life, this is things that could apply to other businesses you may own. It may apply to businesses a spouse may own, or brother, sister, friend, somewhere else you work if you have a second job. But some good practices to keep in mind. So we're going to talk about how technology can help you, and you can think about different processes within your business that you might be able to take better control of and make more efficient or better. And then you can go and seek out the proper technology to make that happen. So the first one we're going to talk about is efficiently transferring data. And to talk about this, we actually have a special guest joining us today. So I would like to introduce everyone to Adam. Adam is actually a member of our development team. So he's one of the guys making the magic happen behind the scenes and making the software work and what you see happen on a daily basis. So Adam actually joined us from a firm that processed claims for a financial institution, Adam. That's right?
Yeah.
Cool. So tell me a little about how you worked on a software there. Tell me a little about how that software helped with efficiently transferring information.
Well, it basically, before the software, the claims would just have to be, they would write the information from the system onto the claims form and have to mail that in. With the software, when it was entered into the system, you could just click a button and it would automatically generate the form and submit that electronically.
Awesome. So basically, instead of entering all the information into a system, then taking that information from a system and writing it on a piece of paper and mailing it to someone who's going to process it, and then hoping that it gets there and it doesn't get lost in the mail and waiting forever to get a response. Now they just take the information that's already in the system, press a button, everything goes over electronically, they get an electronic response to know that it went through.
Yep.
That sounds like a lot more efficient. It probably saved them a ton of time and money.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. So and that's kind of what we're focusing on there with efficiently transferring data. Like I said, we'll tie this back to NEMT in a little bit. But when you have information in some place that needs to be manually translated over somewhere else, that's very costly from a cost standpoint. It's usually very inefficient and usually leads to errors. So one of the ways technology can help is taking that information from one place and then maybe rebatching it or putting it in a different format and moving it to somewhere else. So think about your business. Where are you taking information from one system and manually putting it somewhere else? How could maybe that be optimized? Is there a software solution out there that can do that? So the second is validating and verifying information. So one of the cool things about technology and electronic systems is that we can make sure that information is accurate. So we can make sure if there's supposed to be 10 digits in a phone number, we can make sure that it's 10 digits. If that phone number can't start with 1 or 0, we can make sure that's accurate. There's actually some sort of formula that I don't even know how it understands, but that systems can figure out if a credit card number is indeed a valid credit card number. So all of these things, social security numbers, is it the full 9 digits? So a lot of times technology can actually help catch some of the entry errors that people might make, whether it be a customer's putting something into an online portal for you, or your employees are entering something into a portal. Maybe they're doing a credit application, whatever it might be. We can validate that information and make sure that technology can make sure that everything's good to go. So again, think about places where if you're writing information on forms where maybe if someone were making a mistake where maybe it's something that someone has to be 18 or older to buy, and they put a date of birth in there that's less than 18 years, or they don't have a valid driver's license number, a valid social security number, things like that could lead to problems. The other thing is just legibility, right? Anytime something's being written, you could have some issues where someone can't read it if someone else needs to handle that information. So technology takes care of all of that, since obviously it's always going to be legible, and we can catch some of those common mistakes that might be just a typing error or just an innocent mistake. The third thing, ensuring accurate data capture. So this is, I'm going to use the example of a time clock here. So a lot of times, some companies still do this, but most companies don't anymore. Someone would come into work and they'd write down when their hours were, which it's amazing how when people do that, their hours are always exactly when they're supposed to start, and they take exactly a 30-minute lunch, and they're exactly when they're supposed to end. It's amazing how that works. It's exactly precise to the second every single time. Obviously, that's not accurate. As an employer, you're responsible for paying based on accurate time worked. So now obviously we have electronic punch clocks, whether it be through a computer or even just the old cards that you put in and you press a button and it punches the time. either way, we're ensuring that that data is accurate, right? We know that when the employee hit the button, what time it was that they hit that button. So we can increase the accuracy of the information because we know it was captured in a way that is responsible. GPS tracking is another place of this. If someone says they're one place, that could be one thing. They may not know where they are. Maybe they took a wrong turn, don't know, or maybe they're not being completely truthful with you if they're GPS tracked. We know exactly where someone is, when they were there, etc. And technology allows us to do that. So let's take these things and kind of tie it to NEMT. Let's talk about the life of your standard broker-based NEMT trip and how that goes. So we're going to start with kind of the information coming in. We'll start with validating and verifying. Your information's coming in from a broker. There's usually a file or maybe a portal that you go to and you can get that information. If you're using software that's importing that information directly from your broker, whether it be a direct connection or importing from a file, we know that that data is being transferred without having a mistake. So all that information is coming in, it's being validated, it's being verified, maybe the address is being validated, maybe someone's mode of transportation is being validated, maybe we're validating that what they have as the drop-off time isn't before the pickup time. That obviously doesn't make sense. So we're validating all that information to make sure it's right and efficiently transferring it out of the system. So then it goes into your system where you then have to dispatch it. So normally if you're using paper, someone's taking those sheets, they're maybe putting them into a spreadsheet or putting them onto a paper manifest of some kind, maybe text messaging it to the driver. That's another person handling it where now that's another opportunity, that telephone happens and that information gets misconstrued. Now if you're using software, we're putting it into the same system where it's being dispatched and you select the driver. And it usually goes to them mobily. So again, that information is just moving. It's not being handled by a person who has an opportunity to make a mistake and potentially change it. Now we've got our driver out in the field, they're executing the trip. So we need to make sure that we're ensuring accurate data capture. We want to know when they arrived. We want to know that we got an original signature in the field from the customer, not something that they just signed all their forms at the end of the day because they forgot to get signatures. By using technology, we can ensure we know where they are. So when they say they've arrived at a pickup, they've arrived at a drop-off, when they collect a signature from a passenger, we know where that happened, we know when that happened, so we can provide more accuracy and give you more insight into what's happening and how that information is captured to make sure it's accurate. So now we're going to go back, we're going to efficiently transfer that back because the driver then usually has to get a trip sheet or something back to the biller / operations manager or whoever might be collecting that information, or maybe all of the above. Now we need to get that information back to them so that they can build the trips. Again, when it's in a technology-based solution, that information is just flowing automatically, right? The driver collects it, it goes into the database, it's there to go, ready to go for an electronic billing method. It's not being hand taken from the driver to the biller, which there's a lot of places for error there. They could give you, maybe they had 3 sheets for the day and they only gave you 2. Maybe there's missing information on those. It comes back to the validating and verifying. Maybe they spilled coffee on it, it got ripped, it got stolen, it blew away in the wind, they dropped in a puddle, whatever. Lots of bad things can happen. Then it's got to go to the biller, who has to then not lose it, who then has to take it and transfer it again into some sort of portal or onto some sort of electronic billing method, or maybe even mailing it back to the broker again, manually transferring it. So a lot of manual transfer with a lot of room for error, things getting lost in the mail, again, typos, mistakes, etc. So through and through the life of a trip, we have multiple times that data is being transferred from one person to another, from the broker to you, from your dispatcher / scheduler to the driver, from the driver back to billing, from the biller back to the payer. That information is moving around a lot. All that information needs to be validated. We need to make sure it's accurate. Funny story, actually, I just heard from someone. They recently started with the Logisticare broker integration, the direct integration. And they were like 80-90% on time with Logisticare before that went into play. As soon as they started using technology to capture timestamps, accurate timestamps from the drivers and integrating right to Logisticare, suddenly they were only like 30% accurate, or on time rather. So we went from 80-90% on time to 30% on time because the information was validated. Not being on time is not a good thing for you as a transporter. Obviously, immediately it's going to impact mostly the client, but then that impacts the provider, and then it impacts the broker and the payer. So all the way up, that's going to have some negative impact. Now, as a provider, you might not be impacted immediately by it, but long term, with growing frustration from passengers, growing frustration from providers who are less likely to recommend you, or even from your broker who might be less likely to give you more trips, that's long term going to impact your business. So you can't adjust to that. If you think your drivers are always on time, you don't know, because you're not getting the right information to make decisions. By validating that information and making sure it's accurate when it's collected in the field, now you know where your problems are so that you as a business owner, an operator, can address those problems and get those things fixed. So it's all about efficiently moving data around. I'm going to tell one more lame story, and then we'll let everybody go to their weekend. But one more thing that actually kind of happened recently. I was talking to a potential client about some of their billing tools and things that they do. And he asked me a question about something, and he was like, I don't see that here. You must not do that. So I went into the software. I quickly created a custom field, which takes about 5 seconds, to house the data. And then I showed him how a custom script could take the information from one place, easily move it to another place within the software, and do a calculation to give him the information that he wanted. So within a matter of seconds, it went from you don't have this to, oh, you do have that. So really good technology that's built flexibly can find creative ways that may not be there on the surface. You may not see something, especially in terms of data transfer on the surface, but there's probably a really good way to do it. So if you have these problems, whether you're an existing customer or you're somebody who's newly looking at RoundingBox, let's talk about them. Let's see how we can help you move your data around more efficiently, how you can validate that information, and how you can make sure you're getting accurate information from the field. Give us a call at 716-202-9121. As always, info@roundingbox.com, or you can comment right here on our Facebook. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you next time.